All right. Welcome back to another stream. Hello. Let's get right into this. I was kind of running out of ideas for streams, I guess. Of course, it was a lot easier with right after the release of Downpours. There's just a whole lot of new things to do, so just like doing anything at all was interesting, but we've already gone through all of the main content, but I just kind of realized today there's still a handful of challenges that I have yet to get to. One of those challenges being Ascension as Artificer, which I have tried before on my own, and it kind of went horribly, but I didn't even know how Echoes worked as Artificer. I'll explain that once I get around to it. Oops. But the start will be pretty much the same. Normal. I'll go through Shaded. Nuke Slug Cat. Yep. Pretty much. That's not very great. I don't like when they move off screen. Seeing how accurate they are sometimes. Okay. Hi, hello. Welcome to the stream. Going to try to skip using this shelter. There's one to the left of this room, this screen. Hopefully I can make it all the way to the gate right after, or the shelter right after Shaded. One of the benefits of Artificer is that you don't have to worry about karma, although that won't be the case for this whole run. Gonna do a speedrun with Rivulet. For speedruns, I think I want to wait a little bit on the speedrun streams. I've kind of hold up there's usually a scavenger there that gives you enough karma. Apparently not this time, so I have to go back in here to look for one. There's a whole lot of new categories for. Actually, I think that the scavenger might not even show up before you, or until you shelter here. I guess I'll have to. There's a lot of like speedruns to do. I've only attempted 2 so far, which is the Saints regular ending speedrun, which I haven't even done to completion yet, and Rivulet's Ascension speedrun. That's what I've done so far. And I haven't even done like a regular attempt in like that I've submitted to speedrun.com. I get to do that. So I think eventually I'm going to get around to trying to complete at least one decent run for every main category. Like maybe the story for each Slug Cat, and maybe Ascension too if it's interesting. And then after that point, it would just be like optimizing whichever runs I find the most interesting. But speedrunning some of the new Slug Cats campaigns doesn't seem like the most appealing thing, because they have most Slug Cats have something that I'm not really a fan of. That makes okay. Some scavenger here, I guess. For the Rivulet, for example, I don't like the rot. I don't think anybody likes the rot. But for speedruns, it doesn't seem like the most fun place to go through, as well as Thermo Superstructure, which I'm gonna have to learn the route through. This is enough karma. But well, people have already done speedruns of Rivulet's campaign, but I've got to see runs for most of the other main campaigns, like Gourmand or Beer Master. Or Artificer. So maybe, you know, once like people have decided on like a good route for each of the main categories, I'll do attempts for those. But I think for now, I'm going to try to get some challenges done, like ascending as Artificer. Another one that I'm interested in is beating this, or completing the Saint in one cycle, which is possible. Because of the way that Saint works, they don't have normal rain. Instead, there's this snow that like gets worse and worse as the cycle goes on. But the snow doesn't, it's not an insta kill like the rain, or it doesn't flood anything, you know. It just makes it so that when you're exposed to the surface, you get cold much faster. So some areas where you have to travel along the surface for a long period of time, it makes it like much more difficult to navigate those, like in Shoreline, for example. But since the cycle never ends, it just becomes more difficult. I think it's possible to complete everything in the first cycle. And I would like to attempt that eventually. Where am I? I am just entering Shaded Citadel. But I came from Garbage Waste, from the very kind of like top right side of Garbage. It's where the Artificer starts. From your starting location, you can either go left into Garbage Waste, but you have to cross a scavenger toll, which is quite difficult. Or you can go this way into Shaded, which in a few rooms is going to connect up to... Actually, right here. This is a vanilla room. This is a secret connection up there. You can actually use it to get to Garbage Waste from here, as the other slug cuts. Sounds like a firework. Well, it's the bomb. This room can be a bit of a mess sometimes if you can't see. Luckily, it's bright enough on this side of the room to actually see what's going on. So, getting close to where the Echo normally is. Echoes work quite a bit differently for the Artificer. I'm not sure about... Okay, there's a handful of Echoes that are active the moment you see them. Like the one on the entrance to Subterranean, or the one at the top of the wall. You can get those Echoes the first time you enter those rooms. There's an explosive spear there. I don't know if it works like that for the Artificer though, because normally you might stop to activate them, but the Artificer needs to have a Karma Flower in order for Echoes to show up. I don't know if that means like if you have to activate them first, or if the ones that are normally active anyway. I don't need a lantern. If those kinds require a Karma Flower either. Okay, let's get through this room. But that's probably the most difficult part about this run is that you have to hold on to a karma flower whenever you need to get an echo. Do you want to top of Metropolis? Yes, that's active. This is not a great situation. So this room is funny, because Mirrorless Vultures can show up sometimes, as well as Scavengers, I suppose. So there's a Karma Flower at the end of this room I'll be using to get the Shaded Echo. More Scavengers. I mean, not a surprise. Of course there's Scavengers. What's that guy doing? Yeah, I think sometimes they stay alive for a little bit longer than you would expect. Because I believe that creatures have a chance to die once their health is negative, and that chance is based on like how low their health is. So the more spears you throw at a creature, the more like negative their health becomes, and the higher the chance that they die. But it's not like guaranteed. It's not like the moments they lose all their health they die. Although they will be more, they'll become more injured. It's a way to tell. So, another thing I should talk about, Artificer can't ascend normally. Because you need, I'll go see the Echo now. But you usually need 10 max karma, right? Or else the Guardians don't let you through. However, there are not enough Echoes to get that karma. I think you can get 9. The highest the Artificer can get. If you see every single Echo in the game. Including the extra one in Metropolis. Alright, there's not going to be dialogue. So I don't have to mark. So, the way karma works for Artificer is that when you're holding onto a Scavenger, their karma is added on to whatever karma you have. Which means that you technically only need 5 karma to ascend, as long as you bring a Scavenger with you that also has 5 karma. So it adds up to enough to be able to ascend. Although that means that you have to find and carry a max karma Scavenger through the depth. Although I don't think that would be that bad, because they usually show up quite often in Subterranean anyway. This is, you know, you'll see later. I guess if you stick around long enough, but it's a drone. And you need it to unlock a door somewhere. Other than that, it doesn't really do anything other than provide a little bit of light. So in order to... Actually, I don't know how much karma that I need to get to this gate. Could have just explosive jumped. But I might already have enough karma to get back into Shaded. Or Industrial. I really need to. dropleg up there. Get to industrial cost 1. Okay, there's the scavenger over here. Nice. Well, this guy would give me enough karma anyway. See this dropleg here. I feel like droplegs are especially dangerous and shaded since they're even harder to see in the darkness. Great. That was an interesting kind of jump. It gains more height than speed. So I think I want to get the upper echoes first. The one in Chimney, Wall, and Metropolis. So that way I'll end off with the echoes in like Subterranean. So I'll be closer to the depth. Okay, this is just a cost of 1. It's a little bit dangerous to go through here, because sometimes scavengers like to show up on the other side of this gate before I get to the shelter, and also that shelter, sometimes you spawn right next to a bunch of scavengers. We're good. So for this next gate, I will need to find a scavenger. I would like to eventually, maybe I'll make a video, but I'd like to go through Pebbles as Artificer, because usually you don't have enough karma to get through the gate. So if you go through exterior, you have to go the wall, take that route to Pebbles, which usually isn't a problem because you can make that jump with Artificer pretty easily. The one that usually requires a few spears. But I guess if I got karma from echoes, I would have enough to enter Pebbles from Underhang. Because I'd like to just see using explosive jumps in COG. It's like out of all the new slug cats, Artificer probably has the best COG movement. Not too food. So usually, what is this? Oh, come on. Sometimes scavengers show up in this room. The alternative would be to go all the way down to the bottom of Industrial. So I guess I'll probably better just wait around here. Don't like Underhang at all. Yeah, it's not an optimal route at all. Something that you need extra karma. And it's like a longer ways around. It's faster to just go through the wall, but I'd like to just see how fast I can make it through the Pebbles region with Artificer's movement. Because like I guess like the next best character that for 0G that actually. Oh, hello. Okay, but I don't like multiple of them. The next best character would be Beer Master, because they are still around when there's 0G. Okay, of course that doesn't work. I'm gonna have to get the Karma Flower back every time. Well, I could always find a new one, but I'd rather hold on to the one I already have. Oh, that's unfortunate. Hopefully the Karma Flower sticks around. I don't know if it does. It might despawn if you die an extra time. This is what I was talking about with the scavengers showing up immediately. Best way to deal with a bunch of scavengers like that is probably a grenade, but I don't have the time to prepare that. Nope, no Karma Flower. Okay. Well, there's one in Chimney. And of course, now that I need a scavenger, I'm not going to find any. And I'm not going to find just one by itself. Guess we'll just be waiting around here for another one. Sometimes they show up over here. This process right here is probably my least favorite part of Artificer. Oh, I don't have enough karma to go through a gate. Better just sit around and wait for scavengers for a whole cycle. But after I get like 2 more echoes, that won't be a problem anymore. I mean, the next 3 regions I'm going to have plenty of scavengers. That probably won't be a problem. And, well, Industrial usually has a decent amount of them. It's not conveniently next to the gate. There's usually more centipedes this route. Yes. Well, guess I'll just have to stick around that other area. Still nothing. "58 hours on Gourmand." Yeah, I understand that. Well, it's not really my problem with fighting scavengers. It's just that they're in more regions than they're usually. Like regions that didn't previously have scavengers in them now have scavengers in them. And that you have to use them to get through karma gates. I guess you wouldn't know if you haven't played. I hope there's enough karma, but you basically have to steal scavenger's karma to get through karma gates, because you aren't able to. You only have a max of 1 karma when you start. Oh great! And now there's a bunch of them. And of course, I find a scavenger and then I die afterwards. I thought I could try to make a grenade, but if you're crouching, you just spit it out and you don't grab onto it immediately. So, more waiting. I always like to... I think one of my favorite parts about Rain World is how much you're able to optimize movement to the point of being able to cross entire regions in a single cycle. Then let's try music. Oh, that's not what I wanted. But if you learn the route, you can go from the top of... You can go from the shelter like that's next to pebbles all the way down to the depths in a single cycle. I doubt that's possible as Artificer, because you'd have to keep stopping and finding scavengers to get through karma gates, unless you dragged a single one through the whole process. Or I guess if you got karma from echoes, that'd still be a lot more difficult, because then you'd have to deal with scavengers at the top of the wall and elites in like chimney. And I thought that, you know, movement has got what I was saying. I thought that movement as Artificer would be really good because of this double jump, but like you can't really take advantage. You can't really take advantage of it when you're stopping for scavengers all the time. Well, of course you have to take advantage of it, because like the higher difficulty is in response to how much stronger Artificer is. That was an example of me not being familiar with the terrain, because visually it was a little bit higher than the actual collision. So I could have thrown a spear back, but I thought I was too low for it. But the scavenger did still do this bit here. I could have... You can throw it there. I would have already been through chimney. Had I had enough karma. Hello. Oh, well, Artificer can also create bombs. You like that about Gourmand? Not like the other type of bomb, but can do that. Even after learning a decent amount of Gourmand's crafting, I feel like it's still not that useful. Because most items are already in the regions where they're most useful. There's going to be flashbangs in shaded where there's all the creatures that are vulnerable to the flashbang. Or there's going to be spore puffs in farm arrays where you can use them for the deer or against all the centipedes that are over there. Nice throw. So, you know, you're not going to need to make it. That's enough. I guess scavengers can also show up over there. Blizzard. Picked up a bat fly somewhere. Decent chance at a leap lizard being in this room, but it's probably moved below. No, every single crafting recipe. Most of the useful ones are required, like karma flowers, or I don't know, like neurons, overseer eyes. Like that might only be one that's really useful, but it's like the limited resources that you use to make the interesting items. Well, actually, you don't need it doesn't really matter because you can use the double jump as an alternative to using a grapple worm. Oh yeah, dreams. And also, yeah, my strategy for dealing with scavengers is usually just give them a few pearls and then don't worry about them for the rest of the game. Which is, I wish you could do as Artificer for the other game modes like Expedition or Jolly Co-op, because apparently... Can't you just quit out of these? Apparently scavengers disliking you is just a property of Artificers, so even if you're not playing the main campaign, Artificers are still gonna, well, Artificers. Scavengers are still gonna dislike you a lot. And I wish that, you know, in Expedition mode I could, you know, still get good reputation with scavengers and then just play like normal. Or in Jolly Co-op, how it lets you play as other slug cats in other campaigns. I thought that it'd be a lot of fun to play as Artificer in the Hunters campaign. Because, you know, doing a score run would be a lot easier with explosives. You'd be able to get like vulture kills or mirror spirit kills a lot easier. But then you have to deal with scavengers. I thought that since it was technically just the Hunters campaign, that I wouldn't actually have to deal with. Like, they still have bad reputation. But from my experience, that vulture over there. From my experience, like normally at scavenger tools, they aren't aggressive towards you, especially if you're holding a pearl to give them. But the moment I approached the toll, they just like threw a spear instantly. There's a white lizard up here. It's all off screen, I can't see what's going on. We have an idea though. Unless the lizards just want to come down here. Yeah, I guess you can kind of make that quest a lot easier. Just like farm next to a karma flower spot. There's a good one in Shoreline. Should make a ton of neurons. I kind of thought about doing that, but then I'd have to play as Gourmand. all the unique mechanics that they have are interesting for a while, but I don't think it's worth like having to deal with stamina. But I like movement. I like moving around freely, jumping around, doing whatever I want. And Gourmand says, "Hey, do less, like do less jumps, less like interesting tech." Can't make any spears. That's one of my complaints too. If you could combine random items with spears, same with Spearmaster. I wish Spearmaster could do this. But say like combining a jellyfish in a spear could make an electric spear. Maybe one that was just like one-time use to be balanced. Because there are now actual electric spears, but they're like reusable. But maybe like a one-time use electric spear. Or combining a spore puff in a spear to make one that's a spear that's more effective against insects. I just realized I'm not gonna have enough karma to go into the wall. Or combining a flashbang in a spear. A bomb in a spear to make explosive spears. It's just stuff like that, I think. Would make the gameplay a lot more interesting. Because you'd actually make an actual weapon. Unfortunately, you're just not able to do anything with spears. Spear plus fire egg. That would be very powerful. Because Gourmand does 3 times damage with their spear throws. If they're not tired. And the fire spear does 3 damage. So that's 9 damage. Which is enough to one-shot like most creatures that aren't like king vultures, Mira soldiers. Those kind of creatures won't die instantly, but like everything else will. You can one-shot vultures. That's a little crazy. I wish there was someone like tell a map maker to do this, make a mod, but I'd like to see like either like a desert or like volcanic region that uses firebugs so that they can be in another Slugcats campaign, like other than the Saint. Because firebugs are probably one of my favorite creatures in the game, even though they're exclusive to like a single area. At which point you don't really like fight them at all. Although I'm not going to talk about that too much because of spoilers. You're just going to have to find out for yourself. If you have yet to play the Saint. So I'm going to have to find a scavenger. Just to get to the wall. I suppose taking the... Oh, that's a king vulture. Well, I tried to parry, but it didn't work. I'd really like to not lose the Karma Flower, by the way. Getting the Karma Flower in Chimney is kind of awful. That's why I failed my last attempt at doing this challenge. I didn't realize I saw the bomb there. Yeah, come up here. They're just gonna fly away. The more passive Slugcats are probably some of my favorites, because I already prefer to I prefer like avoiding creatures when possible instead of fighting them. So like with Rivulet's improved movement, you can just like dart around creatures significantly easier. In fact, at the end of, well, most people's playthrough of Rivulet, they only have like a handful of kills. So it's easier to just avoid everything and you don't really have the time for it either. And the Saint, like, their whole downside is that they can't throw spears, but I kind of don't mind at all. Because it's not like I would be fighting things anyway with their mobility. And it makes combat with them a lot more interesting because you have to find kind of creative ways to deal with creatures, like using like spore puffs, flashbangs, bombs, jellyfish, just rocks to like knock things off ledges. Like 50 cycles just to keep the karma fire. That's perfect. This is perfect. Thank you, Leap Lizard. Rare companions. I would really like to not deal with the vulture. I think there's a king gift. And vultures are able to predict where you're gonna go from a pipe. You'd like to be distracted by that. There's 3 vultures now. Why? It's never easy. Once you do get a scavenger, there's just gonna be some other kind of problem. And holding on to this guy weighs me down enough to not be able to make a few jumps that I would be able to normally. Okay, what is this? Did that Leap Lizard escape? So we're just gonna be doing this for a while. I don't really want to go into any of the rooms down here because it's just the scavengers. And now there's some vultures in this room. That's wonderful. I kind of wonder if any other creatures can like know where you're gonna go from pipes. Because vultures, like king vultures, will preemptively charge up their harpoon at the pipe exit. I don't know if that's the case for like other creatures, if they're gonna like. Okay, what is this? Is this just gonna keep happening? King vulture too. If I could kill this king vulture, that'd be very nice. As long as I can get this scavenger over here safely. And I need food too, so either the popcorn plant or the vulture. But it's okay. I just want to grab the spear, man. Oh, that might be a. I just want a spear now, because they're probably too stunned to do anything now. I said you're too stunned to do anything. It's another thing I find annoying about Artificer. I just want to pick up the spear and throw it again, but I keep grabbing them instead. Okay, that's better. Well, the only thing Artificer can do is make an explosive spear. Another trick is that you can get Ultramass easier by doing that. Right, I need to grab this guy. Okay, the wall is probably one of the worst regions for Artificer, because there's leaf lizards, vultures, scavengers, even scavenger at the very top of the wall, where there's usually like nothing. You're usually pretty safe once you get past the white lizards at the top of the wall, but now there's scavengers too. And it's a wide open area where they have plenty of opportunities to snipe you from off screen. Although this getting the King Vulture mask is pretty nice. So I can kind of just ignore all of the lizards. Hard to comprehend while brain worlding. All those creatures kind of force me to pay more attention to the game. Because usually like going through pipes is a good opportunity to look at the chat. But not when there's a vulture on the other side of the pipe. Or on either side of the pipe. But I do try to like go back and read messages that I missed. Like karmic gates and shelters are good opportunities for that. Here's a cool skip. You can do that as all the slug cats actually, as long as you have a spear. Hello. Okay, that was kind of a mistake, blocking the pipe. Oh, he's messing up wall jumps at the very end. Sorry about that. So about this point is where scavengers start becoming a problem. I always forget that isn't actually a tunnel. Hello. It's kind of awkward you're in a pipe like that and you can't. This is my solution to dealing with scavengers in this area. They get in your way too much. They're like, if there's a bunch of scavengers in that one tunnel. I'm just gonna stay in the shelter before I died at scavengers. You could probably do that. It's just that I'd have to drop all the things that I'm holding on to. And then I'd be stuck with a dead scavenger in a tunnel, and that's also kind of annoying to deal with. Especially if there's a lot of them. I'm probably going to be holding on to this vulture mask for the rest of the run. At least until maybe like subterranean. Oh, that's pretty much the very end anyway. Or if I have to carry more scavengers, but that shouldn't be a problem for a while. The next, I'll get 2 echoes from these regions. And then I'll have enough, I'll have base max karma. Although using scavengers might still be useful if I... I'm gonna get this echo right now. Scav incoming your location. They are 100 meters from my location and approaching rapidly. So I'm just gonna, well, it's kind of a few quiet cycles. I go to Pebbles to open up Metropolis. Nice one. Okay, I didn't mean to do that, but I guess it worked out anyway. So this is where scavengers are real fun to deal with. I am trying to ascend. So I'm dying. That's what I'm doing. Some of the deadliest screens. Yep, that's why I didn't know that there was another scavenger off screen. And I would like to hold on to my karma power, although it doesn't really matter, since the one at top, the one in Metropolis activates regardless. I don't know if I've ever gone through the entirety of Metropolis on stream before, because I completed Artificer off stream my first time. So if you up throw there, it prevents you from spinning, which makes it easier to enter the tunnel. You're not still alive. Okay. Any tips on expedition mode? I've played expedition mode a decent amount on streams before. I'd say like so one of the main threats of expedition mode is your karma, right? If you die at the lowest karma level, classic. If you die at the lowest karma level, it ends the expedition. So don't be afraid to just spend a few cycles, like getting food and sleeping again. If you're kind of worried about your karma dropping too low, just like leave, just eat enough food, and then go back to the shelter again and repeat until you're comfortable with your karma. If you want to take advantage of perks, then I would recommend completing 2 expeditions as Rivulet. You can just set it so that you only have like 1 quest to complete for that expedition. Something super simple, like getting like 20 points in 1 cycle. And set that as a challenge. Oh, hello, scavenger. and then do that twice to get 2 wins as rivulets, and that will give you high agility. It's the perk that pretty much just turns every slugcat into rivulets. You want to take advantage of their speed. You can also do the same for Artificer. You get 4 wins as them, you'll get the double jump. I don't really have any other tips specifically for Expedition, because it's basically just, if you're good at the Hunter, you're probably going to be fine with Expeditions. Oh, another tip for the Saint. Sometimes you get point-based missions, or like creature kills and stuff. And you might think that's impossible as Saints. They can't throw spears, but in Expedition mode, oh, come on. That's the Karma Flower gone. And the last scavenger in that room. But, the Saints can actually throw spears in Expedition mode. And they do pretty low damage and they have really low range, but it's possible. You can get, like, kills on spiders. Like, pretty weak creatures like that pretty easily. And it works against lizards too, although I don't recommend it because most of the lizards for Saints campaign are orange. Which, so it means you'll never be dealing with just one lizard. But it's still possible. You just need to throw like a few extra spears than normal. But the most important things, I think, are utilizing Spore Puffs, Flashbangs. You can get kills on creatures that are weak to those without having to use spears. You can also hang out in regions like Sky Islands or Chimney Canopy where there's lots of like endless pits to fall down. You can knock creatures off into them with rocks. It counts as kills. Sometimes in rooms where there's an echo, creatures that enter the room will get kind of disabled. And it's really easy to just like camp in the room where creatures will enter it, get disabled, and then you can kill them really easily. You can do the same strategy against vultures, although I don't really know how you'd easily get kills against vultures as the Saint. Because you just have to throw like a ton of spears. Now this time there just wasn't any scavengers. Just kidding. This is the rest of the stream, everyone. We're it's gonna be here for an hour. Can I get the pebbles? Yeah, good luck actually getting height over a vulture. Also, creatures like vultures or centipedes can sometimes be a bit weird with Gourmand. If you land like on their wings, it might not count. Same with centipedes. Sometimes you land on them from a decent height, but they just don't take any damage. And also for lizards, keep in mind that their tail doesn't have a hitbox. So it might feel like you landed on them, but it's actually just hit their tail, which doesn't count as like actually colliding with them. Are there scavengers in this room? Yes. Okay, that spear straight up just went through his body. I made it. Red centipede without a single spear, but you can use spore puffs. It's super easy to make them as gourmand. You just need a mushroom and a rock. I guess you can also use gravity. It's pretty effective. All the centipedes have so much health that might take a long time, and they're very fast, so they'll be able to reach you if you're like climbing a pole. This kind of movement is what I'd like to try more of. Going through the actual, like the rest of the region with explosive jumps. Someone's here moving too fast to grab onto the pole. You can almost make it through. You probably can if you're a bit faster. You can make it into that pipe. Although there's not another reason to, right? You're probably have plenty of time right after he finishes talking with you. Now we just gotta do this. What was up with that? Five pebbles is your dad. Okay. Probably not. I always kind of wondered, why does 5 pebbles take so long to resync your little drone here? When he's literally a massive supercomputer, that should happen instantaneously. Like, oh, let me sync up your drone, and it just happens, you know. I guess you could say that, you know, the rest of the structure is busy calculating whatever else Pebbles is doing, and so only a small fraction of Pebbles does actually like care about what's happening in this room. It's also probably a similar part of the iterators that lets them communicate between each other. But I'm good at talking. I wonder what happens when he throws something at Pebbles in this sequence. So usually he just kills you instantly, but he might just get annoyed at you. Because Pebbles is probably the nicest to Artificer out of all of the slug cats. I don't know. I want to go this way. That was kind of close. Okay, there we go. So I would like this glow for later regions. I will be going through filtration. Hey man, do you ever consider putting a hole between these two pipes? It's a bit hard to get between them. Through gravity. You know, I imagine these rooms were designed for the ancients to come down from the city to talk to the iterator. That was part of their design, to like kind of give like advice to people. I think the iterators themselves mentioned sometimes how the ancients asked for like to ask them a lot of questions. But I thought it's kind of weird that that room is just zero gravity with like no other supports. So I guess the ancients just kind of floated around, and they probably got stuck like the slugheads do in trying to get out of that room. So now I'm just gonna stay in this shelter. Well, no, I don't want to risk dying to scavengers again. I could have gotten this popcorn plant after sheltering, whatever. If you wanna, you can watch the VOD of this live stream. Once it's done, you'll find it on the live tab of my channel. Yeah, thanks for watching. We're gonna go on a field trip. It's probably still faster just to exit out and come back. A little surprised at how many people here have such different, or in such different time zones. So I tried to pick a time to stream that would allow the most people to view the stream. But I still see plenty of people show up talking about how they're in, how it's like really late for them when I stream because of their time zone, the difference in time zones. All right. Is there going to be scavengers? Yes. The answer is yes. There's always scavengers. Well, you're trying at least. There actually aren't any scavengers. Well, there's going to be plenty of them in here. Kind of wonder sometimes. "5 hours ago? What does that even mean? Time leap? What? When next stream? There will be a stream. Three days from now. I do, so I don't really have a schedule, but what I've been doing recently is a stream on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday at the same time every time. So I guess it's still going to be late for you, but if you want to watch the next stream, then it'll be the same time as this one. I've been keeping that consistent, always starting streams at the same time, but I might change it around. It's just a little hard to to find a time other than right now to do streams. But you know, eventually I might want to do that to accommodate people in other time zones. Especially if I start doing any sort of multiplayer content, which I would like to do. Although Rain World isn't exactly the greatest multiplayer game. And I don't know how many people would be interested in watching games other than Rain World, but if I ever do that, then it's probably more likely I'll do streams in various different times to so that like as many different people can join as possible. Although that's probably gonna be in a long time from now. Anyway, this region is a bit of a maze, so I'm not exactly sure how to navigate it. Nice wall pounce. Actually, I shouldn't have to worry about food if I can get to the echo on this cycle. That'd be nice, and I would get enough karma to just go back to the gate. Also, why is the karma gate to exit this region require 5 karma? I mean, I know that there's plenty of scavengers here, but it's just kind of annoying. I just want to leave this place, man. And I have to find a scavenger and not die. That's the big problem. That was a unfortunate series of events. Okay, I see a lot of messages in the chat. I'm just trying to speedrun this area a little bit. So I'm not able to read them all. I always get lag spikes in this region, and most of the new downpour regions for some reason. Actually, I think I could do something that might help it a little bit. I actually know which way is faster here. I'll try this route. Glad I saw this thing over there. You never know is it bat flies or is it a scavenger? No, I would like to not deal with you. There's a shelter like that over there. I would like to not use that. Oh, hello. Oh, don't starve together. I know that's an interesting game, and I've seen it a decent amount of times, but I've never played it. Especially not the multiplayer version. I might check that out eventually. I think it's the other way. Ultra. Yes, okay, this is the path of the Echo. Hello, lizard. That's nice. Time to do that whole thing again. It's just like one interaction with the scavenger that goes wrong and it's over. These small centipedes are probably one of the funniest creatures in the game. Because every kind of predator likes to try to get them, but then they just get shocked afterwards. Like nothing is able to actually eat them. Although I think they do take damage from like lizard bites and stuff. So eventually they'll stop being able to zap the creature that gets them. But it takes a while. Let's not fall down here this time. I think there's a scavenger hole that way. Oh, the scavenger holes don't really do anything. Actually, I think it's this one. Actually, I have no idea what. I'm not very familiar with this area, but scavenger holes are kind of funny in this area because they're just a big group of scavengers, you know. Artificer cannot pay tolls past them. I forget if this area is actually a. There's something down there if you. It's a death pit. The cicada is just like the electricity. Maybe. Thank you. Okay, I don't. For some reason, Artificer has a hard time dropping creatures once they've grabbed onto them. Usually, you hold down and press grab to drop something, but sometimes it just doesn't work, especially with grapple worms. I don't know why. Oh, wonderful. Ah, there's the scavenger in the way. I would like it if they just fell past me. Okay, that just also leads to this area. I don't know if that's faster. Hello, Elite Scavenger. these two rooms leading up to the Echo are probably some of my least favorite, just because there's a bunch of like tunnels that are hard to get through if they're full of scavengers. Okay. One mistake once again. And I could stay in the closest shelter. This is also why I feel like Artificer speedruns would be kind of annoying. The fact that you have to deal with this kind of stuff the whole way through this region, plus the boss at the end. Well, in quotation marks, is it really a boss? It's kind of hard to tell with the way Rain World works. But the scavenger at the very end feels like it's just completely RNG. I'm sure there's like strategies that like make the fight easier, but or that thing where you like stab all the spears into walls, which works sometimes. It depends on who you ask. Goodness. Okay, that was just me playing bad. Stick kept stealing spears out of his hands. I don't really remember my strategy because I beat them first try. I remember that I used an electric spear, which makes it really easy because once you stun them once, it's like it lasts for 7 seconds, I think. And that basically just makes the rest of the kill free. Although I don't know if the electric spear works if they have armor still. If you have some way to get rid of the armor and then hit them with an electric spear, it really works. But I feel like the same thing would be true for explosive spears. Like, once you remove the armor, hit them with an explosive spear, and they're dead. And like at any moment they can just jump and throw a spear at you when you're not expecting it. You know, this region is really interesting. It's exclusive to Artificer, so they're like the combat and movement is designed around Artificer. AKA, there's lots of scavengers and there's a lot of jumps that the other slug guys would struggle with. Metropolis, but there's not really reason. Like, you don't go to Metropolis to go somewhere. You come here to beat Artificer's campaign, right? That's the goal, or to get their Echo. But I kind of would have liked to seen, like, because this region is the city at the top of 5 Pebbles. It's the one that you see in the background every time you walk through the top of the wall to get to Pebbles. It's like one of the best backgrounds in the game. I guess I would have liked to see it do something else. Maybe that's because I don't really like Artificer. Some people probably like this region a whole lot more than me. Who enjoyed Artificer a whole lot more than me. We're basically just fighting a bunch of scavengers. And then fighting a very difficult scavenger at the end. Okay, I feel like this route is faster. Like, what reason do you have to go to some regions? Because for Survivor, for example, the options on how to get to those, between those locations. And I suppose the echoes kind of count too. Sometimes you go to a region just to get an echo. And there's a handful of regions that are alternatives to to each other. Like, you can, if you want to... It's that character. If you want to get to the depths, you can either go through the farm raise route or the, or like the drainage route, you know. And so if you want to add a region at the top of 5 Pebbles, like as the city, you need some reason to go there, right? You can't put an iterator up there because that's already what 5 Pebbles is, right? If you put an echo up there, which I guess there is an echo, but it's kind of underwhelming. Like all this way to get an echo, even though you could have also gotten one of the many other echoes in the game, since you only need a handful of them to get max karma, right? Like what other reason? I guess a pearl. I guess if you had like a really interesting pearl up here, like something that solved like one of the greatest problems in the lore. But if that was the case, then you basically have that one reason to come up here to figure out the interesting lore from that pearl, and then nothing else, right? So you'd have no reason to return here. So it kind of makes sense that they chose to make this region into like the ending of Artificer. Because, you know, oh, they'll put scavengers up there, and you fight the scavengers and you win, right? I don't know, I would have liked to see some other reason. Although I have no idea what that would be. Because you can't really go anywhere from here. It kind of has to be the end of a campaign. I guess it could kind of be like the cloak in Submerged Superstructure. You find some important item up here and you bring it back down. I don't know. I guess I'm just saying that I would like to have seen this be something other than just a scavenger combat. Although it kind of is worth it for the background. Climbing up this tower. Very, very good. There was a region gate randomizer for the base game or Downpour, and I think it was kind of awful. You're basically just going back and forth between trying to look for... It's like going back and forth between regions until you find the depths, or subterranean, I guess. Okay, goodbye. Or I suppose you'd have to find pebbles first for karma. But it's just like going back and forth until you find the one region that you actually want to go to. Suitable for expedition mode? Maybe. Since your goals aren't necessarily tied to like the iterators or the depths. So I'm gonna get this popcorn plant, although there's risk of scavengers. What's nice now is that I have enough karma to just go through this gate. No scavengers needed. And I technically have enough karma to ascend, right? If I get a scavenger with 5 karma, it adds up to 10, which is enough to ascend, but well, technically. It's enough to get past the guardians. But I think I would like to try to get as many echoes as possible, since there's a lot more. Actually, I think there's only 3 left, right? Farm Raise, Sky Islands, and Subterranean. That's pretty much the route that I'm already going to take. So might as well get them along the way. I think I'm going to stay in this shelter down here. Wow. So now I am past where most of the scavengers are. No spear. There's spear? All the way up there. If I can get this white lizard. Ow. Wonder if any of the lizards saw me for the split second where I wasn't wearing the mask. If that counts as them no longer being scared. I'm going to have to go through the deer zone, unfortunately. Hopefully it works. Every time you choose to go through the deer zone, it's just a gamble. I like to drop that. Someone really looked at these like 3 rooms at the top of the chimney and said, yeah, let's make a whole region. It just looks like these rooms. Or I guess a sub-region. Hello, King Vulture. Goodbye, King Vulture. I can probably make it. Maybe, possibly. Small chance. There's a little bit of a problem with this route, actually. I have to get the farm raise echo, which means that I'll have to go all the way to the bottom of farm raise, and then all the way back up. Although, it's not really that big of a problem, actually, since the deer, I'm gonna have to go to farm raise anyway to get the subterranean. But it would be easier just to take the long path, or the short path through the top of farm raise. I believe there is a, hold up. There should be a karma flower in here. Yes. Now don't lose this karma flower. Before the next shelter. Mostly it's just like lizards here. Maybe a vulture. And I already got food. Nice. That was clean. Can't your cycles go like, hey, I kind of got lucky that, I mean, that was a decent run, but I could have died to scavengers on the wall. A random king, I mean, I could have gotten hit by that king vulture. That was a little close. But the vulture mask makes this a lot easier. None of the leaf lizards or white lizards, orange lizards, nothing was I had to worry about there. See if I can make these jumps. Of course. Is that a large lizard? Nope. Oh. Communication array. No. There isn't an echo around communication array, and if you mean just Sky Islands, then I've yet to get it. That's where I'm heading right now. Oh, and there's another karma flower here. As backup in case I lose the one I have now. Echo is right here. That droplet got a hold center wing. That was kind of interesting. I managed to jump right after that explosive jump. Yeah, something I was kind of thinking of before Artificer, or I guess before Downpour released, is I was wondering if you could explosive jump into the floor to start a roll. Although it's a little pointless because it'd be slower than to just do a more horizontal or diagonal up explosive jump. Thinking of Spear Master. But you can actually kind of do that, like jump into roll by, because horizontal explosive jumps don't affect your vertical speed at all. Well, I think it gives you a little vertical boost, but if you're already falling, that's not going to be enough to send you moving upwards. So if you're falling from a decent height already, you do a horizontal explosive jump, you'll be able to do a roll right after that. Well, that's only really useful if you're trying to get somewhere a lot lower than where you already are. If you're just moving horizontally, then it's better to just do like jumps like that cover more distance. Goodbye. Don't actually know if that's any faster. So actually this is probably gonna be pretty easy. In fact, I don't even really need the farm raise echo if I don't want it. I could just go get the subterranean echo, and then I only need a scavenger with like two karma, right? Maybe 3 karma, depending on how it adds to your current level. But it's pretty easy to find scavengers around like 4 karma. So that would just kind of be extra. Yes, the echo, that once you're at 5 karma, getting an echo will give you an extra 2 points. That's just always how it works for the characters that start at a karma lower than max 5. Okay, I would like to hold on to that mask. Wherever the mask went, did it fall further down? Or wait, did I forget to bring them? Where's the mask? I was not holding it in the gate. I totally just forgot it in the shelter. All right, let's continue anyway. Well, I guess that's one way to get the mask back. Here it is. Usually you can totally just ignore center wings, but I stayed in that room long enough for them to become aggressive. I did not do that on purpose. I just missed them with the explosive spear. I'm not going to really have to worry about lizards because there's only a handful at the beginning of Subterranean, and then it's mostly like centipedes, spiders, scavengers, and mole lizards that aren't affected by the mask. So I don't really need to hold on to it. Well, I'd want that. Of course, they moved out of the way. Perfect time. Or maybe I just threw it at the worst time. Plus, it probably would have been pretty easy to get another vulture mask with these vulture grubs. Also, something else that would be very cool, if Artificer could convert spore puffs into spore bombs, or if Gourmand could combine spore puffs and grenades together. But I'm imagining a spore puff with just a significantly larger radius, such that it would even be like an insta kill against red centipedes, which spore puffs can already do, by the way. If you throw a spore puff so that it hits a decent amount of the centipede segments, and then it's an insta kill against red centipedes. Although it does take a while, it'll happen eventually. But a spore puff bomb could have like greater radius and maybe a bit more like impact damage. Thought that could be interesting, but unfortunately that doesn't really exist. That's another thing that I'm a little disappointed by for the Gourmand. Their crafting system pretty much just lets you craft games that are or items that are already in the game, and I suppose the items that are new to Downpour, and a few that like usually don't have access to, like the Singularity Bomb or the Fire Egg. But you can't make completely new Gourmand unique items. Like you can't combine jellyfish in a bomb to make an electric bomb, or a jellyfish in a spear. Well, electric spears are a thing, but hello over on Twitch. I see you. But it would have been cool to see if Gourmand could create like some completely unique items, but instead, when you combine two items, you just like get some other random like loosely related item instead. It's not really crafting. It feels more like just creating a random item, but you can control which random item to get. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like an AI generating mods would be significantly more complicated because you'd have to write code not that doesn't just work in a vacuum, but also that interacts with the other systems in the game. But if you're like already a modder, it'd probably be a lot easier because you know how to make mods. But at that point, like, why bother with the AI? Just like write the code yourself if you're familiar with the game's code. Gear refuses to come as always. I'll be here eventually. I mean, I could have thrown the Spore Puff, although I have a theory that throwing a Spore Puff just breaks the Deer AI even further. I generate mods. Well, people already have plenty of ideas for mods. It's just like only a handful of people actually know how to make them. So I've noticed that even for like before Downpour, there's a decent time where a lot of mods were actually being made, but it was still mostly just custom maps, custom regions. That was the most common kind that I saw, and maybe like rarely you would find like a unique slug cat. There were a handful of those too. And of course, the Downpour kind of originated from a mod, the many slug cats mod, which originally just added in the new slug cats. That was pretty interesting. But I would like to see mods that add in more like completely unique items or creatures, stuff that feels more unique than just mashing together already existing mechanics. And modded regions are interesting, but I don't really like them most of the time because I like the fact that the the world map is always consistent. It's something that you can learn. Like I've gone through Shaded Citadel so many times that I've kind of learned exactly the route to take to navigate it because Shaded is very useful if you're an industrial and you want to get to Shoreline, or actually if you're in most regions, if you want to go to Shoreline, Shaded is the fastest route to get there, at least to get to the side closer to Moon. So I've learned how to navigate Shaded, and it's a very useful region. But if a mod adds a custom region and it just kind of does its own thing, maybe it has like a pearl or echo at the end, like I don't have a reason to go there. I think maybe the best reason to add a unique region is if you also made a unique slug cat. That's kind of what Downpour did. All these new slug cats, plus each one has a unique region to go through. Okay, I actually ran out of time. Just waiting for deer. Yeah, each, like Artificer, for example, new slug cat, plus they have the Metropolis to explore. That's a region that's unique to their campaign. But you know, if you add a campaign in the game just to be cool to explore for one time, like since it's a modded region, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to just keep that on all the time. And like get used to it being part of the world and using it to navigate between certain areas. And I suppose you could add a new region that kind of acted as a shortcut between two specific regions, kind of like Pipe Yard or the Gutter. But there's already so many connections between, like Pipe Yard itself just connects like a ton of regions. So you'd have to pick some like obscure like regions that you'd want to connect to make a new region for. I don't have enough food. I did not. I was not aware of that. Well, okay, I'm gonna be starving. Sometimes deers just break their neck. Sometimes deer can eat food from the back of their head. They're supposed to tilt their head forward to eat spore puffs off the floor. But sometimes they tilt their head upwards and they still manage to eat the food. I don't know why they do that. Okay, so I'm just... If I can get enough food, I won't have to deal with being starved for too long. Some people say that the deer shouldn't be fixed. They shouldn't be made like easier to fight, or not fight. You're not fighting the deer. They should say that they say that the deer should be made that they're easier to use, or they shouldn't be changed to be easier, because that would, like, that doesn't fit in with the idea of, like, oh, they're just like random creatures in nature. They're not designed for the player to use, even though they definitely are. They're supposed to feel more like just natural creatures in the environments, just doing their own thing, and the player happens to be able to take advantage of that. Come here. But sometimes they just refuse to move for an entire cycle. Yes, that's the main problem I have. Like, they should act natural. They shouldn't just follow the like player's commands, but they shouldn't just be stupid. Okay, what is happening? I've had to figure out the difference between putting a vulture grub in your stomach and mauling it. You have to fight with the deer. Yeah, you're not... It's a different kind of fight. I did not know that Wings only gave 3 food. This squid gate is probably also... Yep, that's enough. Like, the interacting with the deer, it just feels janky. It feels like like, it's not supposed to happen. When they just, like, sit and don't move for an entire cycle. Or when they, like, randomly, like, stumble off a cliff. Like, that one room closer to the entrance to Subterranean, they like to fall down that room awkwardly, and... Like, why do they do that? They just forget how to walk, and they just, like, face plants into the ground. Hello. That is a sizable centipede. Of course there's a scavenger. Of course. Okay, we're back here now. I love reindeer. They're my favorite creatures in the game. They're very consistent. I always prefer going through farm race instead of the drainage route. Of course, I don't even know if I can take the drainage route as Artificer because they can't stay underwater for that long. But I'm trying to get the echo over here anyway. I really like all the alternative ways they added to get past this area of farm raise. Like the Saints, for example, you can get the yeeks. They show up in farm raise and you can use them to cross the worm grass. As rivulets, you can cross like the underwater tunnels as an alternative, or any slug cat if you can get a bubble weed, which is probably going to be gourmand if you can craft one, or maybe the monk with their extended breath time. What is going on? Monk might be able to make it through those underwater tunnels. And I prefer taking any of those routes as an alternative to the deer. Apparently deer were fixed for a short time, actually. Did I just not have a karma flower at all? Oh, probably because I starved or something. Apparently they were fixed for a short time, but then they got broken because when Downpour was made, they had to combine a bunch of mods together, and something about that process might have broken them. Or maybe deer were fixed when people were playtesting, but then they were broken before release. Next to the red pearl and farm raise. There's 2 red pearls in farm raise, isn't there? There's one in that, like, below the room with the shelter and the centipedes, and like the big tunnels. That's like a kind of a one-way passage. There's a pearl there. There's also a pearl in that one room with all the worm grass that you have to use deer to cross. Hello? Do you want to eat this? Connection next to red pearl. I'm not sure what we're referring to. When you have to take a deer to get through. I don't think there's anything over there unless they've added something since Downpour. Because usually you go there and the only way is to come back. Like you can't get the pearl and keep going in that direction. This is classic Rain World. I might have done something in the wrong direction. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if deer just had bad reputation with Artificer like every other creature does. So they show up less often. But since you can't go through drainage, like how else would you get to filtration? Sometimes they just like stand on the air. Poles in the field. I know there's poles in that room. I don't think there's anything else. I don't know. It might have changed. What is happening? It's nice, isn't it? You grab onto them and then they stop moving. They're both frozen. You can do that, I suppose. Get to subterranean through another route, and then climb up to get the echo. And now that I've dropped down, it's gonna start moving, isn't it? Hello. Having war flashbacks. Apparently a lot of the Slugcats can get to the subterranean echo from the bottom. I know the Rivulet can, Saints definitely can. I guess Artificer can, since he can pull spears out of walls. Spearmaster probably can, because he can generate spears. I guess it's just Gourmand and the vanilla ones that can't. Okay, what is happening? Are we moving? Are we actually moving? No way. It's only been half of the cycle. There's only like 3 more rooms to pass with deer. This will be fun. Luckily, it seems like once they start moving, they don't really stop. What was being fixed with deer anyway? They were a little inconsistent before. Sometimes they wouldn't move at all like they did this time. Sometimes they would like turn around in the middle of a field of worm grass. Sometimes they would... I think most of the problems were with the rain and other deer, right? Because they like to like bow to each other based on the length of their antlers. I guess that kind of messed things up sometimes, where they would get stuck doing that to each other. Or if the rain was coming, they would... Something messed them up when the rain was coming and they wouldn't move at all. And they tried to fix that, but they just made them even more broken. A lot of scavengers, yeah. You know, something kind of interesting, there's on the scavenger tools, there's like a reindeer skull. Right, suggesting that the scavengers kill the reindeer and use their multiple of them, like a whole lot of them. And use their skulls on the top of their skulls. But it's very, very hard to kill reindeer. Even if you have like a ton of explosive spears, they don't care at all. So I wonder how the scavengers did it. Also, this is a little bit of a... Oh, hello. Let's go. Go, go, go. Oh, that actually worked. Although I don't like that I'm hearing threat music. See, there's a reindeer skull. Singularity bomb. I guess scavengers. What are you doing? Hello? Yeah, imagine that. Okay, it's turning around. Why are you turning around? Is it because of the rain? But there's like a few minutes left. I thought you're able to like do that to make them turn around, but I guess it doesn't work. But singularity bombs are very rare. So I imagine that they don't have like that many of them to use on reindeer. Can you jump over the grasses, Artie? Maybe. Maybe if you like jump as soon as possible, but I don't want to risk that. It's probably would not work. You know that if I used my parry, it'd probably stun the deer long enough so that it would die to the worm grass. Because you could do that with jellyfish, probably electric spears. If a deer is stunned for long enough, it will die to worm grass. Of course. Why wouldn't there be scavengers over here? Although I think they're gonna run from the rain pretty soon. So I'm just gonna hang out for a bit. Parry does not stun it? Okay. So I guess you can't do that. But maybe using an explosive spear will work. Or a bomb. I'm just gonna wait as long as possible. It doesn't rain in the next room, so I'll have plenty of time to get to the shelter. If I have food. I do not have food. There's a popcorn plant. That was a wonderful cycle. If your parries work against Wormgrass, which is something I have not tested, you might be able to. That might work. If you do an explosive jump parry and then jump out of it, that might work. Although you can only do like 2 parries before you start stunning yourself. Also, I hope this echo is active because I don't have a Karma Flower right now. Minus the deer. It was a wonderful cycle, yes. I do wonder what the problem is, although I imagine that's actually quite difficult to fix, considering the complexity of Rain World AI. Okay, the echo is active. But yeah, it might sound easy to just say, hey, deer, just like start moving faster. I don't know, but that's probably not possible. It's a lot more complicated than that. Maybe it's something to do with pathfinding. Like they're trying to figure out a way to walk between their nodes, but like they're not finishing the calculation, so they're just standing there instead, waiting for it to complete. I don't know. Or something to do with the rain, whether like player reputation, whether they've eaten a spore puff. There's like plenty of factors. If there's other deer in the rune, because they have interactions between each other. So now, I have a decent amount of karma. I'd be able to get this Karma Flower and go back up anyway. But I'm pretty much just looking for... Also, I did not know there's popcorn plant over there. I just need to find a scavenger. And you go down into the depths. You're not a dropwig. Oh, he's getting a lot of lag. And subterranean. Okay, I don't really like that centipede, but it seems to be a little preoccupied with something. Not max karma, how do we ascend? A scavenger. Same way that you get the karma gates as Artificer. At least I think that's how it works. You're not even able to get max karma even if you get all the other echoes. I'm pretty sure the only echo left is the farm raise one. Okay, that was not as far of a jump as I wanted. I could try a creature flaying, although it probably doesn't work well with Artificer because they can't drop creatures quickly. There's a lot of spiders here. Didn't think there'd be this many. Usually, because usually the red centipede just kills everything. Hello. Okay, actually, I don't really need the vulture mask. There's not any lizards that I can see. Except maybe a handful of leaf lizards. Not like I can trade it for. Okay, so there are plenty of scavengers here, although I would like to sleep in a shelter first before I go looking for a scavenger. And the karma doesn't carry over the next cycle anyway. I suppose it would have helped, the mask would have helped against this lizard. Clothing a scavenger gives you extra karma levels, yes. That is how Artificer works. Please don't still be alive. Okay. What is going on? Kinda feels like I'm being hunted. All the creatures building up in this one room. See, now I have X karma. Holding on to this scavenger. Okay, I kind of got stuck up there. Scavenger also kind of acts as a shield, so I didn't get hit by that spear. Really bad spot to be in. Maybe, just maybe. If I can get through all of... Hello? Okay, I think I dropped them for a second. Since my karma went down. Yeah, it's a little hard to drag them through these tunnels sometimes. Maybe I need to grab like the middle of their body instead of their head. That was the problem. I don't like this spider. Hello? I want that. That's another spider. It's a good thing that I grabbed a neuron. So I would not be able to see anything. Yeah, I just dropped the scavenger for a second. I also have to try to not to feed the lizards accidentally. From here, it should be fairly easy. As long as there aren't too many down here. Well, of course there's many down here. Also, it's interesting how filtration system looks a lot more active for the earlier slug cats. Like there's still lights, there's like green lights in the background. I have a feeling that this is something that contributes to the iterators kind of falling apart. Okay, I actually managed to make it all the way through. Hopefully the guardians don't mind me carrying this around. It's very easy to drop this actually. But peptides and drainage too. Yes, I thought that was just a mechanic to let Artificer have an easier time and like, the actual possibility of getting through drainage. I guess it applies for Spearmaster and Hunter too. Anyway, so like Moon, for example, she collapses because, oh, this doesn't even do anything. I guess because I kind of have fake karma. But Moon collapses because of the lack of water and like slag buildup and lack of cooling. So that's why Moon collapsed. But I think that there's like a lot of different factors. Yeah, I don't know how much I can talk about without bringing up spoilers for the other Slug Cats, but things like filtration system, which I assume the purpose of that is to bring void fluid up to the iterators because it's used as their main power source, right? If filtration system fails, then the iterators lose their main power source and they have to rely on the backup power cells, which probably don't last forever either. So the iterators in the future probably still deteriorate naturally, even though if they don't have anything like serious happening to them, like Moon or Pebbles with the rod. And also lack of ancients to perform maintenance. And iterators seem to struggle to just like do things generally. What is there something up there? Hello? Is that the intended way you're supposed to go? I've pretty much only ever gone through this room with a spear. Is that like the way that you're supposed to navigate the depths? I've never seen that room up there before. So the Guardians don't seem to mind the scavenger. So I guess at this point I don't need to hold on to the scavenger, right? Since I made it past the Guardians. First time I've been in the depths as Artificer. The other sound effects are kind of different because everything's slower, but the explosion sounds exactly the same. Maybe with a little bit of reverb. I feel like the void fluid does care, right? Like there's a reason the Karma Guardians exist. If the ancients had some idea that maybe karma related to whether you became an echo or not, and so they prevented anyone without the max karma from being due to lower the chances of people becoming echoes. Who knows how the void actually works, or how karma works at all. Rain World is the kind of game where karma doesn't just feel like a game mechanic, it feels like it has some reason to exist, some lore reason. It's kind of hard to tell how aware creatures and the ancients were of their own karma level. Because I mean, if the ancients created the Guardians, which I assume they did, then they probably have like awareness of karma and like some way to detect. Oh, and the karma gates too. So they have some way to detect karma levels. Anyway. I assume it is at this point where I can no longer bring the scavenger with me. Although, I'll see how far I can take them. That just made me automatically drop the scavenger. and the drone. So fun fact, the karma symbol at the bottom left, it's flashing red because I assume it's because I don't have enough karma to ascend. I'm supposed to have max level, but I've managed to get here because I used the scavenger to bypass the guardians. I've actually seen the flashing karma symbol before because I've gone to the depths. I've bypassed the guardians because the gourmand. If you make a singularity bomb, you can just kill the guardians and pass without needing enough karma. And that's where I saw that the karma symbol flashes like this. So I assume that they just have a system to detect you have less than max karma, and then it will show you the flashing symbol, even if you're not playing as Artificer. Although the ending the ending as Gourmand was still the same, even though I didn't have enough karma. There's also the debate of whether or not this sequence is actually real, or if it's just a hallucination. Like once you enter the void seed, you just like dissolve immediately. But that process of being dissolved kind of gives you the hallucination of experiencing the void worms and whatnot. Or do you not like fully dissolve until you reach the very bottom, where the void worms bring you? I think there's reason to believe that the void worms are a real creature because of the leviathans. If they were a creation by the ancients to try to recreate the void worms outside of the void sea, maybe, or it's some other reason that we do not know yet. But the void worm does not seem to be interested in helping me out, which I assume is because they know I don't have enough karma. It's interesting. What exactly the void worm's intentions are here doesn't really make sense. Are they just like, are they perhaps past like ancients who ascended and wish to help others in ascending too? But this whole sequence is different now. Yeah. Gone. That's it. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly how the. I guess I can see how I did statistics. Yeah, it can't go above max karma. But the highest karma you can get from echoes without a scavenger is 9. Just one below max. That's including the extra echo in Metropolis. You would have enough if Pebbles gave you extra karma, but they seem to know that you're not able to ascend. It's kind of hard to tell if you're not able to ascend just because you don't have enough karma, or if it's because of Artificer's violence. Because that was kind of the ancients' whole idea, like the 5 natural urges, things that you had to like completely remove from yourself in order to ascend before they figured out about the void fluid. So it's maybe just because of the Artificer's violence, which is the first urge, the first natural urge, I suppose. But that's the most prominent one for Artificer. Like they want to like seek revenge against the scavengers, and maybe it's just for that reason that they're unable to ascend, or if it's just because they don't have enough karma. Well, this timer is misleading. I don't think it counts time where you die or time where you get echoes. The actual time was, check here, 2 hours. And well, since the start of the stream, it's been 2 hours, 30 minutes. But this ending screen is interesting because it's just like, it just looks like regular Ascension, right? Which is strange because the ending was completely different, right? There was whatever happened with in that ending sequence. Maybe something to do with, or obviously um, they get to see their children again, but then they disappear. Joined at the very end. Yeah, I'm probably going to be ending soon. But this image here kind of suggests that they did successfully ascend. This is what the other ones look like. It's not like the Artificer became an echo. Why aren't they an echo? But I think being an echo suggests that they're stuck, for example. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between like seeing an echo and being an echo. Because like being an echo might not feel any different. It might just be like a more infinite version of the cycle. Or it might just be like the echoes that we see in game. Those are what you become and how you experience, and like what you experience as well. And so since Artificer doesn't return to the surface, doesn't return from the Void Sea, like that doesn't meet the requirements of being an echo, I suppose. But they still failed to ascend in some way. And in that ending animation kind of made it look like they just disappeared completely, which is kind of what ascending is supposed to be, right? Ending the cycle. It's hard to tell if ascending like is some sort of afterlife, because like the survivor, for example, ascending lets you see the like slug cat tree. It lets you see their family again. Does the slug cat, or does the survivor after ascending get to like live a happy life with their family after entering the void sea, or is that just like a hallucination? And they get like one last happy experience with their family, and then they like are like dead permanently. Because the way the ancients talk about ascension, it makes it seem like it's just death, right? The cycle prevents creatures from dying, and ascension is kind of like It's like a final death without the cycle. So is that just what the Artificer experienced? The way they disappeared at the end of that sequence? Yeah, it might have something to do with becoming maybe a void worm or one of those void spawns. It's hard to tell. There's a lot of interpretations for this. Anyway, gonna end the stream now. I'm actually a little surprised at how quickly I was able to finish this. I mean, it took a while in some areas. I had to scavengers a lot, but I didn't really have any difficulties getting the echoes. That's something that I'd struggled with more in my last attempt. I was trying to get the echo at the top of Chimney Canopy, but I didn't have a Karma Flower, so I had to go down, like halfway down Chimney Canopy to get the Karma Flower, but there was a red lizard in that room every time. And I was spending so much time in that region that a bunch of creatures were lineaging into more difficult creatures. So I had to go down, get the Karma Flower, and then come back up, and that sounds kind of easy, but I died a ton of times. But it wasn't that bad this attempt. All right. Yeah. Now I'm actually ending. Thanks for watching, everyone. See ya.